That's part of Whitaker Park as well.
Okay.
But we have a significant pond over there.
Yeah, we don't like that
And,
one.
and building a pool next to a pond that's got a bunch of ducks in it, is probably not the wise thing to do.
Yeah, it always has detriment to things, but I'm just thinking groundwater, I don't even think about the ducks.
So, you know, Pryor Creek, and the Park Branch Creek does go through there. And there would be, there would be.
It says 800,000.
Evaluation about groundwater and what that affects.
Well, I don't think there'd be groundwater on the other side of the road. We have that big low end there,
Are you talking about where the pool is now?
where the pool is now.
Okay, okay.
I'm talking about next to the pond.
I see. Pryor Vet Hospital. This is Larry.
ready, aren't we, Bill?
Yeah.
Rip.
We gotta get the thermals.
What are you doing, Glenn?
The boys for the program. So
We gotta hurry up.
if we don't, we're gonna move them.
Yeah,
Already-
30 minutes, 30 minutes. Got a Christmas program.
Call me.
Call the meeting to order, please. Can we have a roll call, please?
Kenny,
Here.
Marks,
Here.
King,
Here.
Seaver,
Here.
Graves,
Here.
Shelby.
Here.
Item number 2, discuss possibly approve the minutes of the November 22nd, 2021 regular meeting.
Make a motion to
Is
approve.
there a motion?
Motion.
Motion's made, second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried. Item number 3, discuss and possibly recommend council action regarding proceeding forward with plans for design development and financing for a new outdoor public swimming pool to be located at Whitaker Park. These plans will include the demolition of the old park pool. I'd entertain a motion to that effect. Before we have discussion, you're gonna have discussion first. We can have the discussion
That's
first.
completely up to you, sir.
Huh?
That will be completely up to you, Mr. Chairman.
After,
Yes.
after you, Mr. Mayor.
Very good. Thank you all for coming out tonight on a special called meeting. I appreciate that. I felt like with the legwork that we had done, I didn't want to let it lay, and it was not on the park board meeting in November. So I felt like that in order to try to move it forward, then perhaps a special called meeting was in order. So let me tell you the legwork that I've done. So after council action on 2nd of November to approve discovery of the estimated cost of renovation of the Whitaker Park pool and discovery of the estimated cost of building an outdoor pool either at Whitaker Park or at the rec center, I contacted Don Paddock, who is here tonight, and I asked him to update his numbers from his November 2019 numbers. Now, that is in the packet. If you've seen the packet, then you've seen that information. Conversations with rec center and with the rec board and with council members indicate some discomfort with placing the pool at the rec center due to that being more of a secluded location. Also, especially for walkability and for just the fact that children want to ride their bicycles to the swimming pool. So from talking to citizens and the majority that I have talked to, I've said, what do you think about a new swimming pool? And if so, would you like to have it at the park or at the rec center? And just about everyone says, well, let's have it at Whitaker Park. And so I've gotten that input. Now, Chris, that was not a scientific poll. I just want you to know that. Okay? It was not a scientific poll. It was a matter of conversation with people that I see. And
Well, could you let, was it at the donut shop or was it at Arby's? Or
so,
how big was your crowd?
Eastside Cafe,
Okay.
Thomas Restaurant,
That qualifies.
Most important spots.
First Baptist Church, talking to even some city employees and just trying to cover the gamut. Talking to future school teachers, just trying to understand maybe what their impressions were. When talking to Mr. Paddock about both locations, he also is of the opinion that the greatest use of the outdoor pool would be at Whitaker Park. The cost of the proposed outdoor pool would be about the same at either location, but obviously the Olympic size, if we put in an Olympic size pool at the rec center, there would be enough room to do that. That would be substantially more money. My process would be to explore all the funding possibilities, from grant to bond to sales tax, whatever it might be. and then present the best option to the citizens via park board and city council, see if we can find a way to build a new outdoor pool. So that's, that has been my legwork thus far. I asked Mr. Paddock to come tonight, and he is the one who has put the estimate numbers together. He's willing for you to ask him questions about the outdoor pool. I don't want to beat a dead horse necessarily, but I do want to cover all the bases. So the reason why I've tried to get you all together tonight is just because I'd like to move this discussion forward and try to get some resolution to it, move it forward, put the citizens in a position to pay for something that they seem to want. So, Mr. Paddock, would you come to the microphone, please? And I would encourage any one of the park board members to fire questions away to Mr. Paddock. Don spent part of the day with me, about 3 weeks ago.
3 weeks ago.
Something like that. We went and looked at the pool, and we also went and looked at the rec center. So what we have is the estimate that he did on restoring the old pool, building a new pool. We have that from 2019, and then we have what he updated on November the 10th of 2021. So fire question.
Mayor, can we fire a question to it? This, and we haven't put this into the record yet, but this agenda item, what does this
Say
agenda,
that again?
this agenda item that's
Yes.
on, what do you see the scope of this agenda item? What's the deliverables that's going to come out of if we pass this? What are the next steps and deliverables from that?
So, very good. So what I would do is I would explore every funding possibility, every funding possibility that I could find. We would turn Mr. Paddock loose to do design work. This is conceptual work that he has done so far. He's not really done nitty-gritty plans that you go out to bids with. So that would put him in the position to do that. Now, that would cost the city money for him to do that. There's no doubt that would cost city money for him to do that. But if the citizens want a new pool, we've got to start somewhere. And we don't need to just keep talking about it. We need to start somewhere. So what I would want to do is I would want to explore all the funding possibilities, whether they be grants, whether they be sales tax, whether it be bond, try to figure out what that looks like, and then turn Mr. Paddock loose to do some design work.
Okay. Well, and where I'm going with this is, when you talk about that in that sequence, what I anticipate, Mr. Paddock's gonna need some requirements
Oh, yeah.
in order to design around.
Okay.
And
so-
have we talked about, when we talk about a new pool, has anybody sat down and talked to, well, these are the requirements for the new pool? We want it to be this big versus, it's a house. Assuming this was a house, how big's this house going to be? Are we asking it to be? And we
did some preliminary work on putting a new pool at the location where the old pool is. Kind of turned sideways. I'm not sure the street names. What's the street name?
Kawaya and Park.
Have you seen it?
Yes,
Okay, so you're familiar.
I'm familiar with that. And I guess that's my question is, are you planning on, Larry, for the council, Mayor, for the council to sit down and at some point have a requirements discussion about how big a pool do we want? What features and functionality do we want?
Sure.
Okay,
Sure, all of those things. Our culture, as I understand it, now I've been doing this for 2.5 years, okay? Our culture, as I understand it, is more weighted toward the money part than it is the design part. Would you agree with that?
Well, money's always a constraint. I'll agree with that. There's requirements and there's constraints, and you have to define those requirements within those constraints. And I don't know what that constraint is. I think you're probably looking at, is it $2 million? Is it $4 million?
So with what he has put together here, okay, that's an example. That's an example. His updated, the estimated cost of that work, somewhere from 2.5 million to 4 million. Okay, so there's quite a bit of space there.
Well, maybe I'd ask Mr. Paddock, what did you use as your basis
What
for
we
the
did,
design?
we originally had a pool that was, your existing pool, I think it's 8,800 square feet. It's too big, kind of an overkill for what you guys have. It doesn't have enough deck area for your population. We dropped it down to 6,700 square feet and changed it to where there was, on this pool, there's a lot more shallow water, zero entry, more usable space. And, every pool you go to, everybody's in 3 foot of water or less, 75 or 80% of them are in 3 foot of water or less playing. So we're kind of going off that. We put diving, we put a 6-lane pool, I believe, didn't we?
Yes, sir.
Okay, we put a 6-lane pool, a short course, which is a competitive course. I think you guys have something that relates to that on your indoor facility. When they go to the outdoor facility, they need to be swimming competitive lengths, if they're trying to train or do anything to basically promote their swimming, so.
So this is a proposed, based upon your background and knowledge of the industry and the swimming pool.
It's the whole deal.
Yeah.
This is what he does. This is
Um,
what he does.
So I think that would be, when we're looking at this process, that would be something that we would want to have some definition around. Like I said, I'm using some that people can understand, okay, going in at this process, we're gonna see a proposed design based upon some requirements that somebody's come up with.
Basically, with this layout that we did, we ended up with, there's a data sheet on it. It's got a bathing load of 371 people, which is pretty good for your size town.
And that, in layman's terms, that's how many people can be in the pool?
At
one time.
Be in the fenced area at one time.
Okay.
So, supposedly, if there was more people, they'd be having to wait at the gate until someone left, but, when you're talking about, 50 or 100 people and you're in a small town, no one does that. So, you get 4th of July, you might have an overkill. You might be to the point that it is just a ridiculous amount of people. And then it's up to your guards and, to make the decision on how they're gonna approach it. Which some towns, some towns will throw their hands up and not worry about it, which really is a mistake. But some other towns will say, okay, we're gonna, as people come in, when we reach our limit, we're gonna not let people in until people leave. And some people even promote, well, we're gonna promote half days and switch it out in half days. So, but, what we did was put together a size facility that we thought was workable and with some features that would make it very usable and very enjoyable. You know, you put a play structure like we show on this thing in the shallow in the zero entry area. It's just amazing how many little kids are just loving it. It just brings people in.
So then, out of this agenda item, I'm understanding that one of the deliverables will be
Design.
a design of the proposed new pool with
We will
features.
start out with design with this pool right here. We will get it to a fashion where we have some preliminary stuff, then we'll bring it, and I'll come to a meeting with a few people or powers to be or chosen ones,
With this.
and say, okay, what do you like, what do you don't like,
So we're not, as this goes out and goes, this is a model that you think fits the town's needs.
I think this fits your needs.
But it's not
and
set in
fits
stone.
the
We're not voting
location.
for that pool. We're voting for a pool that fits our needs, right? So we can come back and say, well, maybe we don't.
Well, we're voting for this pool, but we're voting, as we get into it, we're starting with this. And
This is our starting point, we can
And
always
then-
work her out.
then we have preliminary stuff, we're starting to come out and say, okay, well, this is what we got. This is a floor plan of the bathhouse, this is, the way the pool is, this is how much decks is, and go back and forth and kinda see
Fine-tune
what you like and dislike and fine tune things. But this is really the basics we're starting with. What I don't wanna do is end up really getting serious, on designing a pool like this and come to a meeting and no, we don't want that, we want an L-shaped one now. So, that's what we're trying to get away with, that's why we did this and try to get a starting point.
Mayor, does the funding dictate what this model looks like? Or your thought is
No,
the money,
not necessarily. Now, this is my opinion. We need to design by function. We need to design by the function. So, he's a professional, he builds pools all over this part of the world, and in different sized towns. So, we need to design by what function we think would work for us. And I agree that this is a function that would work for a recreational public pool, a modern recreational public pool.
It says
This is 6,200 square feet, what are y'all, 1,000 people or what are we,
Your top
population?
population,
10,000?
about 9,500.
9,500, 10,000. I've got a pool in Winoka we're working on right now, design, preliminary stuff that's gonna go to vote. It is, Winoka's 1,900 people, 900 to 1,000 people. The pool is, I think, about 3,200 square feet right now. And it's probably gonna get a little bit smaller as we go into it, just because of funding and, what they're gonna try to vote for. They just, decided they only had 1.5 million they could do something on bonding and put a vote to, so they're gonna try to vote it in April. And so we're downsizing and working off that budget is what we're doing. And working off a bathing load of 200 people. We wanna make sure we at least have a bathing load of 200 people there, so.
So in the regional discussion, we talked about whether the location, whether it should be here or possibly where it connected with the splash pad. Do you remember that?
Yes,
And what are your thoughts about that now?
we did a drawing with it over by the duck pond. I don't my personal thoughts, I don't like it particularly over there by the duck pond, just because of groundwater, and the closer you get, the more water you're gonna have, and you'd have to take care of that during construction. And also, you might have to take care of that at a later date when you need to drain it and do work on it. You know,
Makes sense.
the mayor doesn't like the idea of having all the ducks jumping in the pool.
I'm telling you, I don't think that's a good idea.
But,
Build a public pool right next to a duck pond, it just doesn't
yeah,
make sense to me.
so,
But at the current location, you feel like you can build it and make it function now?
yeah, if you look at the way I turned it,
Mm-hmm.
basically I turned it where the deep
Yeah.
end is down in the hill.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
it's a workable deal.
Well, so was this the original, is this, like, is there a pool in this area? I know the first design was like the pool at Grove or Miami, there was some similar pool.
I showed you one in Grove.
Mhm.
That's what we looked at. We looked
This-
at like 2 or 3, and
Right.
then they kind of came up with ideas we liked, and then he came up with this.
I don't think I have any T ones like this that are, you know, in the last 10 years.
This is called a T-shape because of,
The
You
lab.
see the swim lanes and
Right.
you got the T coming off.
right.
And
So in this process, what's the first, I know we got into some weeds here, but what's the first checkpoint we have as a community to say, what are we gonna have discussions and voting to move forward as part of this process?
Well, of course, I'm given a go-ahead to start design. I start design. We bounce back and forth. Once we establish this is the scope of the project that we're working on, and this is the tentative budget we're working on, you know, then we go a little bit further and we end up with an architectural rendering that you guys have to promote the thing. As we're starting to do complete design, you know, all of a sudden you got, we just completed a set of bid documents that are gonna go to the state, for approval. Once we determine and have funding available, then, you know, you might end up with a set of specs that's a ½ inch or 1 inch thick, depending on what you do, and have a set of plans that's, 20 to 30 pages, or 24 by 36 sheets.
So let me more, maybe more clearly address, what you just said.
Okay.
What Chris just said, was that, if we could take this plan, and if we could present this to council, if we could publish this, this plan, put it in the newspaper, ask citizens to come and speak to the design, and that would place council in a position then to approve this plan. I think that was the spirit of your question, was it not?
Yeah, yes, it was. And the short answer to that is yes, it was. It's having points throughout the project that we approve moving forward, that we reach consensus
Yeah,
on. This is, okay, we've now got a plan, a design that we're comfortable with. We've got an estimated cost, we've got an estimated completion date, we understand the risk, we understand all those things.
right, so that information is information that Don will put forward for us. So a time schedule, plan completion, before any money's raised or anything like that, it would need to go to the state health department for approval, is that not correct?
We will not send it to the state health department till you have the money ready.
Okay,
And the reason being is permit's only good for 1 year,
okay,
and we don't wanna, have
We don't
it
wanna straighten
submitted
that
and
out 5
approved
years,
and
huh?
find out you're gonna need 2 more years to get enough money.
what is a potential time schedule for, something that's finalized like that with funding that would be approved through the state health department?
Through the state health department, once it's submitted, depending on the time of year, of course, because certain times of the year they're overloaded with stuff and they feel like they're gonna put you on back burner. They have been real good the last 2 years on 30 to 45 days reviewing drawings. I remember 10 years ago waiting 7 months for one. So, but what I would do, I would do preliminary layout, preliminary design, establish the layout of the bathhouse, establish the layout of the pool, the decks. I'd come meet with you guys. We would make changes that we felt we wanted, if there was any or not. Once I got a plan view that it was acceptable to everybody, before I start, and I have started drawings, but as I'm finishing drawings, as I got that first sheet and have the floor plan and everything doing, I'm able to start design, but I'm also able to get a rendering started. So in preliminary work, we get the rendering done. After we get the preliminary approved, then we get the rendering started while we're working on the other stuff.
So if the state approves, let's say the state approves the plans, from then, how long would it take?
To build it,
Mm-hmm.
well, we gotta put it out to bid, so.
Sure,
We say we put it out to
right,
bid.
everything, all that's done, it's bid and stuff like that.
Once it's done,
Mhm.
depending on what it is, 9 to 12 months.
So a year.
Are you also in the construction business?
I have been, but I'm not bidding on jobs that are public work. They're just a conflict of interest and.
So you would not be bidding on this job
No, I would
that you
not.
designed?
No, I would not.
Okay.
Now, what we would want to do is ask him to send it out for bid. We would ask him to send it out for bid and let him then review the bids and make a recommendation to us which bid we would like to use.
And those bids would require detailed blueprints?
Oh, yeah.
That's the whole 9
Specification.
yards. That's what we're doing.
Yeah. So do you see, I guess what I'm really trying to understand is, once this horse is out of the gate, for a lot of people, this is like, oh yeah, we just take off. There's a whole lot of steps involved here. And what we've got to do, I think, as a community, to make, one, most importantly, an informed decision by the community so that we have support and we don't have people jumping up going, why did we end up with this or this? So we have to have points within this process that people can look at this and review it and weigh in on it. And to me, these are just a few words on a piece of paper.
You're right. That's all they are, Chris.
And I'm trying to make sure the best we can that people really understand, what are we committing to? What's the scope of work that we're committing to in these few words? And I'm getting a sense that it's the design
It
piece.
is the design.
Are you scoping your work that you're gonna charge the city based upon that piece, just that piece of
We
work?
we get paid based on the amount of, what I do is if I have 50% of it done, I bill for 50%, less 10%, and then I work off the small end of the estimate. We got a range in the estimate, so in my billing to start with, I'm billing based on the smaller end of the estimate, because it's grown, because just the bidding atmosphere out there right now is just terrible.
So, Chris, you've worked with design engineers before. Or I'm assuming that you have. So,
Yeah.
so you work with an architectural engineer, a design engineer, and so their package is gonna have payment through the different phases.
Yeah, and that's really not, I'm just trying to understand the payment structure also is affiliated with the scope of work and what gets delivered.
That's correct.
So the first, and I feel like we're walking through the project plan here. If this is better
That's what
for
you're
all.
doing, Chris. Chris is a project planner.
As, well, because, and I'll use the analogy of a house, because I think it's easier for everybody to understand. But if you're deciding on a house, you sit and look at it and go, what is it I want? Here's what I want, here's what we need, and how much money do we want to spend? Money becomes the constraint, typically, of, this is how much we got, we can go forward with.
Well, I think like on a job like this, you put it out to bid and you pick out items that could be alternate bid items that you kind of want, but you don't know if you can afford them.
So you see we're gonna reach a point in this process, and this is gonna be a major milestone, a decision point that says, here's a proposed house plan, here's what we think it's gonna cost. We're not to the blueprint level yet. We're still doing, you want a house with 3 bedrooms, 2 baths, you know, on some piece of property, that we get a chance to look at it, and you say, my experience has been, you would tell us, okay, here's what the house is gonna, you know, a rough drawing, conceptual drawing of what's gonna look like. And I'm gonna give you a cost estimate here within 50%, or within 20%, or within 10%. Because, you know, we haven't nailed down a lot of things, and it's easy to plan about, I know I'm talking to somebody that does this for a living, but for the rest of us, it's easy to plan about what you know. It's what you don't know that kicks your butt. It's when you get into these designs.
So let me also say that if we want to involve a grant, then all the design work has to be done. All the design work has to be done.
So you see that, what do you see the end of what we're proposing here? What's the desired end state of this part of the project?
Design work and figuring out what it costs.
Design work, and when we talk,
Design work, estimated cost, ready for this package. If someone calls it, okay, we've got the money, let's get that thing submitted. We spend a few days clearing up some things, and we submit to the state.
okay, so that is the
And we
end of
have
this
complete-
phase.
And we have complete contract documents.
And what are we estimating, that's the scope of work we're talking about. So at the end of this the end of this piece of it, you're gonna estimate the cost to get us to this end, that particular end state, with a design and an estimated cost, and it's ready to go to,
Ready to go to bid.
it's ready to go to the state to get approved.
Right, and, you know, we have quite often, as we're going to the state, we're putting it out to competitive bid at the same time,
Does the
if we're able to.
What's the state's role? Do they have to approve the design?
They have to approve the design, they come out and check, the structure when the contractor has all the steel in. When he has it grounded, they come and inspect it and prove it, they got checklists they go through. Then, after the concrete's done and, the ditches are opened up and still have piping laying there, contractor can't cover up the piping until he has an inspection from the state.
But that's part of the build side of it, that's
Yeah,
not the design
It's
side.
all the build side,
Yeah.
yeah, it's all the build side.
So do you
They're
have,
approving the design based on the plans, then they're inspecting
yeah,
the facility to make sure it's designed as per the plans and specs. So,
it's not just, they're gonna trust us, they're gonna make us show
they're
them.
very trusting people.
Yeah. Okay, well, I think, so the services that we're gonna be paying you for, and you're providing us an estimate of,
Right.
is to get us to that point, that we've got something that's build ready, a design,
Right.
that's been approved by the
You
state.
know, in a few days' notice, we can get things submitted, we can get things advertised, or,
And do you have a rough estimate yet of time and cost of that?
well, the cost I do,
Okay,
it's in that sheet you have.
It's all in front of you.
124, the range on the design work?
Design services, somewhere between $237,500 to $380,000.
It's the sheet across from the picture. So it was updated in November.
Down at the bottom of the updated 10 November 21 sheet.
237, and what are you thinking on timing? I know timing's gonna be dependent upon our responsiveness.
Yes, it's gonna be,
Now, let me ask you a question I haven't asked you yet. Okay, so, these design services, that also includes, that includes, construction, inspection, that includes.
construction administration,
Administration,
documents,
Clear through,
submittals,
yeah.
what we're doing is observation inspections.
Right.
Basically for you guys are doing day-to-day inspections.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah. So,
day-to-day
so the design-
inspections if you need to.
so the
which-
design services here also include supervisory activity, over.
There is no supervisory activity. I just want to say that. We aren't allowed to tell a contractor how to do his job.
Yeah, it'll be dictated by the specs, I understand that, but what you are saying is that, are you, can you give us, just for our edification, a couple of ideas about the services you provide post-project bid being accepted and construction started? How do you work with
We,
us?
say we put the project out to advertise. I call, there's a couple of contractors that do some bigger stuff, that have done bigger stuff for us, and a couple of pool guys. They aren't pool guys, they're commercial builders that do sewage treatment plants, but also do pools. And so I contact them, so I gotta set plans out. I advertise the bid,
But maybe, you're not the general contractor.
I am not the general contractor at all. I'm just trying to get bids, trying to get a general contractor to say, yes, I wanna give a price on this job and see if I can get it. So,
Do you review those bids?
yes.
As they
I
come in to
review
meet
and
spec?
Make a recommendation.
Okay.
And it's hard to do, you end up people bidding on it, and they bid on it, and they provide all the bonds and everything, and, then you say, well, I really don't like that guy. Well, he's provided all the bid documents and stuff, how can you say that? So, you look at some of his work and make sure the work is up to snuff, and then you put it on you guys, say, hey, this is where we're at.
So, I think just this conversation, I hope what we come away from it with is understanding, we need to get some people on the council educated to the point of understanding the life cycle of this thing and how it's gonna work. Because if we're gonna make, I keep going back to informed decision and we understand what's going on, we're gonna have to understand the cost, what the scope of work is. We don't have to do the work. But if we don't, we're gonna be wrestling with this along every way. Somebody said, well, I didn't know that, or I thought this. There's a lot of assumptions that are gonna be made out there. I think the more we can nail it down,
Well, a lot of it would be nailed down when we get preliminary drawing and layout of the
Yeah.
bathhouse. All of a sudden you look and say, well, there's no places to put storage in anywhere. Well, we want some storage. Our garden, our bathhouse, we wanna be able to get to it from the outside. We don't wanna have to go to, if someone wants something from the concession stand, we want something from the park to be able to go there and get it without having to go to the pool. So you just look at the layout and you're trying to figure out what's the best, for the situation and for the location and, we gotta look at ADA. You gotta look at, the facility has to be ADA compliant, both the bathhouse and the pool. We gotta have ADA parking, we've gotta, basically, just gotta meet all the codes. I think, once we get a go-ahead on things, the preliminary, and you have a preliminary plan that has everything, has the layout of the bath, and well, it's got 5 toilets, it's got 3 urinals, and it's got, 6 showers on each side. And we don't like where these are at, or we don't want these in the back of the bathhouse, or we're just kind of looking at everything, kind of saying, okay, this is what we got. And is everybody on board, or do we need to make some changes? And so we go back and make changes we need to.
So we're at the point of the conversation, I think, in our town, with the park department, with the pool subcommittee, with talking to citizens. We've been without a pool for 2 years. We know that the citizens want an outdoor pool. So what we're doing is we're trying to move a process forward. And you're right, that motion is really simple. And there's a lot of details. There are a lot of details, but if you can turn this to council, give them the opportunities to engage in the design, engage in the funding, and we can do the proper communication with our citizens prior to a council meeting, and get citizens here and let them express their opinions. Everyone wants to express their opinions. Just because it's on Facebook, we don't, it's not really an opinion as far as I'm concerned. But we give citizens an opportunity to come be face-to-face with city council and say, we like this design, or we don't like this design. How much is this gonna cost? I don't think we can pay for it. Let's scrap it, whatever. But let's move forward. Let's move forward with a process. We've listened to the citizens this far. Let's move forward with the process and see what they want to do.
And I think that is the most critical aspect, because if tonight, if we want everybody to understand, we're not walking out of here with, we've committed to a design, we've committed to building this thing that's under $4 million. And we've committed to where we're gonna build it, and when we're not doing that. We're just saying, let's start the process.
Absolutely.
And we'll complete this as we go, and we'll have checkpoints that we'll be able to make the decision whether we wanna move forward or not.
Now, if we engage an architectural design guy to design, if we do that, then we need to stand by our guns and do what we say we'll do. That's what we don't need to decide halfway through a process. Well, I'm sorry, we just changed our mind. We don't want to do that. No. What we're doing is we're committing to design work on something that the citizens say that they want. So let's do what they say.
Well, I personally agree with that, but the other side of that is, I commit the dollars, I need to understand the scope of work and what I'm gonna get out of it for those dollars.
Yep.
That is, without that, it's a pig in a poke of, yeah, we're gonna hand some money, and then we all stand back and go, well, we didn't know, let's put it on paper, let's let everybody know, let's be upfront, open, transparent, this is what we're gonna get out of this for the money. Because this is a pretty significant chunk of money.
It is.
If we go down this
There's no
$250,000 to $400,000.
So one of the things that none of you have asked this man is, if you design this pool, Mr. Paddock, how many years of service is this pool going to provide for the citizens of Pryor?
Well, I've had some pools I don't know, it's kinda hard. It's like, we design off the same principle that we've designed on for my granddad and my dad and everything. And, I know that, a pool was built for the Biltmore Hotel in, Santa Barbara, California in 1933, that's still in operation. Okay? Now, it's had mechanical work, it's had stuff done to it. We've got one in Elk City that I think was 49 or 51 that we renovated 25 years ago. We've got one in Bethany, Oklahoma that was built in 71 that was renovated in 95 and just upgraded with some features and some stuff. And it was, right now, we're putting main drains in it because when we did the renovation, we didn't go underneath the structure and change out the main drains. So, you know, I'm seeing stuff that lasts longer than me.
I think there's probably, I'm guessing there's an estimate there, and I don't know that you provided it's one thing to build an asset, but you also have operating and maintenance costs, preventative maintenance, regular maintenance costs that it takes to keep that thing at operating level. And I don't know, you know, that's something that we ought to be involved in the cost. We need to know what's gonna be the annual cost of keeping this thing operational and so that it's functional for a long period of time.
That is a guesstimate, but, you know, you say, okay, I know I'm gonna have to really, I'm gonna end up painting and recoating this, epoxy coating this interior every 5 to 9 years. So you figure, well, based on 5 years, what I'm gonna do? You know you're gonna have, general maintenance. It might be a pump and motor, it might be a repair that you might have to do every, 5 to 8 years. So you have all these things we look at and you say, okay, yeah, well, I think, if I put $6,000 a year back and estimate that if I save $6,000 a year every year for this, capital improvements, I'll be in fairly good shape. Nothing's gonna hit me real hard. So, you know, we'll look at size things and see amounts and we'll look at that. But, you know, part of my problem with all that, it's the operator.
Absolutely.
The operator can do so much damage, and an operation that someone doesn't care about it, it's a problem.
Especially when you're dealing with municipalities. It's a changing,
If Frank back here's doing a crappy job, then we're in trouble.
Yeah. So,
well, I appreciate you taking the time to answer those things, but I think this is, it seems like we've initiated large capital projects in this community, and there's a whole lot of people that get surprised by the process and the cost, and we don't want to go, if we can keep that from happening.
Well, once we get to preliminary and really, in preliminary, all of a sudden everybody say no, yes, no, and you're able to establish the scope of the project and put some true numbers to things that aren't true right now. I'm so frustrated with estimates, it just drives me crazy. But, we established the scope, you know, we were able to put a drawing together that, you know what a rendering is. Rendering looks like a picture. And so we put a rendering, we provide some 24 by 36 and digital copies so the newspaper can have it. And you guys can have one posted here in City Hall and have one that you take around to different different things like the veterans and just different places here in town.
yeah, so talking about civic clubs and.
Civic
whatever
clubs
it might be.
Things like that.
So it sounds like when this wraps up, we're gonna see, your next step, Larry, is gonna be, see if we can get the council to approve moving forward to paying for a set of, for design services of $250,000 to $400,000.
Yep.
And we're gonna have a detailed project plan.
Yep.
From
Yep.
our representative here that will tell us these are the tasks and activities and responsibilities and timeframes and those things.
Correct. If you'll notice on that, on that 10 November 21 estimated costs, above on the page is renovation of the old pool. Below on the page is construction of a new pool. You'll notice that design services also is a fee for renovation of an old pool. Okay, and so, so there's gonna be design service fees for whatever we do. The only way we're going to avoid design service fees is if we just do nothing. That's the way, I mean, if we want a pool, the only way we're gonna avoid the design fees is to do nothing. Now, we can do nothing. We can do nothing. We can eventually demolish what we have and reuse that space for something else, for an amphitheater, for a skate park, for whatever. You know, we can decide, our citizens can decide to do that. What I'd like for Park Board to do tonight is to consider, we've been through a process, we've been without a pool for a couple of years, we've listened to citizens fairly well, and if we need a park pool, if our citizens want a park pool, then we need to engage in how we're going to design and pay for a park pool. And that's where we are. That's where we are. We could let it lay for another year and just do nothing. We could. I don't feel like that's good stewardship, not for me. Not for me, not with the process that we've gone through.
Well, I think we make a motion to go forward with the with the item that's on, on the agenda.
The citizens have pretty well indicated that they want a pool. You know, you read that on social media all the time and you see it in the paper, so the citizens want it outside. The majority of the citizens that are verbal anyway, want an outdoor pool and they want it in the park. And, you know, we can either not do nothing and just keep kicking the can down the road, or we can make a decision to take it forward to the council and let the council make the decision. We're either going to do it or we're not going to do it. And I think that's what this meeting is for, is to decide if we think, as a board, that we want a pool in the park, and then if we do, then to advance that to the council for them to work with it.
Yes. I would not like to advance this to council on the 21st. I would like to advance this to council on the first meeting in January. The reason why the 21st is that council meeting is already pretty full. I think it does this better justice to set aside some significant time of council meeting for citizens to be able to come to speak to it and for it to be advertised in the newspaper before city council meeting, because it's a significant expense, and citizens need to be as informed as they can be on it.
Well, I make a motion, we go ahead with the motion.
You would entertain a motion, then the motion's been made to recommend council action regarding forward with plans and design development and financing for the new outdoor pool in the park that we're, and demolition of the existing pool. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any more discussion?
Now we're having discussion.
Call for the vote, please.
King,
Yes.
King.
Again.
He'll take care of your vote, Casey.
Sorry about that, Casey.
Yes.
Graves,
Yes.
Shelby,
Yes.
Cannageeser.
Yes.
It's okay. It's
Thank you.
okay.
Mr. Paddock,
Appreciate it. Appreciate your time.
did you renovate Wagner's or did you build Wagner's?
Wagner was the new pool.
That's a new pool. What about Medill?
Medill,
Which one of these from your website do you think we could look most like? Just looking from your renderings, like Medill or Oak Arch, but no, not Oak Archie, but
I'd have to look and see. I need to,
I'm shocked.
you know, really the one that, I based this on to start with was the one at Grove. And we started with that, it really doesn't look like Groves. Doesn't have the big fan, doesn't have, some of the features, but it's got like the high dive, it has all the features. So really Grove as far as for what you have and the quantity of things you have. The bathhouse probably is a little larger at Grove than what it would be.
That's something we can talk about when we get to design and stuff.
So tell me again about the swim lane. These are not Olympic, I mean, these are not competitive size.
They are.
But 25 meters, correct?
25 meters or 25 yards is a competitive swim
Okay.
lane.
It's the
And
same
they
as-
are.
You know, and the term Olympic, I really don't like because really these are short courses, 25 yard, A22, those are short courses. The Olympic sized pool to me means it's 164 feet, 2 inches long, and it's got 8 lanes. And we've got 6 lanes, and we're operating off a short course because we don't wanna, the 164 feet's gonna be a huge pool.
So what are the lanes at the rec center?
25 yards.
Okay, so that's not competitive.
It is.
Yeah, it's a short.
You'll have to go to
course.
Bartlesville to find a 50-meter pool.
So what was the issue with the rec center not being able to host? They felt like they couldn't host
Well, there's only 4 lanes, and
just space.
Have to
I know
run too
most
many
people
heats.
like, if they have a short course pool, they like to have 6 lanes.
Okay.
So. You get in rural Kansas and everybody's, if there's 5 towns and one of them has a 50-foot long pool, that one is still one they swim with their mates, but it's a non-sanctioned little, just a recreational league type of deal.
So this, would they be able to have sanctioned meets at this pool?
it's whatever whatever the governing body that says that you're saying, if it's a OSSA or something, yeah, I mean, it's the same size pool that what you're gonna find at other schools.
If you go to schools, it'd be the same.
Because that's what the parents that we talked to, that was important to them.
So from swimming, doing some swims, competitive swims and going to Bartlesville, we don't need 50 meters of just straight,
That's a lot.
it's a long ways. And then your kids that are used to swimming here, you get on the struggle bus
I bet.
because there's no wall to turn around on so frequently.
That's a long way to swim too.
What's that, the school, was it Jenks that put the new pool in here a few years ago?
Jinx, I think it was Jinx, Glenpool or Jinx, I guess. We were not involved in it.
I thought it was Jenks that put a new indoor pool in that they've been doing some,
In the last 10
they were doing a lot of swimming in for the state, for the high
in the
schools,
last 10
high
years,
schools,
I
yeah.
think so, too.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
I appreciate it, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Item number 4, I entertain a motion.
I'll make the motion.
Motion made, second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, everybody.